The divorce papers were placed in front of me before the main course. Not after an argument. Not after a breakdown. Not even in private. At Christmas dinner. Under candlelight. In front of his entire family. Sign it. My mother-in-law said, like she was offering dessert instead of ending my marriage. My husband didn't stop her. Didn't speak. Didn't look at me. He just stared into his wine glass. Like silence could save him. And around the table. No one moved. No one questioned it. Because they weren't shocked. They were waiting. Waiting for me to cry. To beg. To break. But here's what they didn't know. 3 days earlier, I had already found something. Not just betrayal, not just lies. Something bigger. Something buried so deep it could destroy everything this family had built. So I picked up the pen. And I signed. Slowly. Carefully. Because that signature. It wasn't the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of theirs falling apart. Let me ask you something. What would you do if the people trying to erase you had no idea you were already holding the truth that could erase them instead? If you had walked into that house without knowing anything, you would have called it perfect. The lighting was soft. The silverware matched. Every detail had been placed exactly where it was supposed to be. That was Carol Harvin's specialty. Control that didn't look like control, elegance that hid something sharper underneath. My mother-in-law didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She controlled rooms with smiles, with timing, with pressure so subtle no one else ever noticed it. Only the person it was aimed at, me. When I first met her, I thought she was impressive. Polished. Confident. The kind of woman who seemed to know exactly how the world worked. And for a while I thought that meant she was kind. I was wrong. Carol didn't care about people. She cared about image, about legacy, about the story her family told the world. And once I married her son, I became part of that story. Not as a person. As a role. Jason didn't look like someone who came from that kind of family. That's why I fell for him. We met in grad school, late nights, coffee, deadlines. He was easy to talk to. He listened. He laughed at things that weren't funny just to make me smile. And when we were alone, he felt real. Like someone trying to be different from where he came from. And maybe at the time, he believed that too. But there was something I didn't understand yet. Jason could only be that version of himself when his family wasn't in the room. Because the moment they were, he changed. Not loudly. Not obviously. Just enough. Enough to make things easier. Enough to avoid conflict. Enough to let someone else carry the discomfort. Usually me. The first year of marriage didn't break me. That's what makes stories like this dangerous. They don't start with obvious cruelty. They start with small adjustments, compromises. Things that feel harmless until they're not. It began with the house. A month after we got married, Carol decided it needed updating. Not a suggestion, a decision. I came home one evening and found decorators inside. Hanging photos, rearranging furniture, replacing things I had chosen with things that fit the family aesthetic. At first, I told myself it wasn't a big deal, just style, just preference. But then I started noticing the pattern. Every photo on the wall wasn't about us. It was about them. Generations, legacy, lineage, and slowly, without saying it directly, the message became clear. I wasn't being welcomed into the family. I was being absorbed into it. And then, the pressure started. Not loud, never loud. That's not how women like Carol operate. It came in pieces. A baby stocking handed to me like a joke, a pair of tiny shoes left on the counter with no explanation. Comments at dinner. Light, smiling, carefully placed. Family is strongest when the line continues. Some women understand their purpose better than others. Good news takes time, but not too much time. Every word was soft. Every word was public. Every word impossible to challenge without looking like the problem. And that's how it worked. Because if I reacted, I looked sensitive. If I stayed quiet, I absorbed it. Either way, she won. Jason saw it. That was the worst part. He saw everything. The tension, the pressure, the way I would go quiet in the car after dinners, The way I would cry in the bathroom where no one could hear me. And every time, he said the same thing. You know how she is. Or, she doesn't mean it like that. Or, I'll talk to her, just not tonight. There was always a reason. Always a delay. Always a way to avoid choosing a side. And slowly, I realized something I didn't want to admit. Jason wasn't cruel. But he wasn't brave either. He had been raised to survive discomfort by letting someone else carry it. His mother created it. I endured it, and he called that balance. That was the moment the marriage started changing. Not on the outside, on the inside, because I stopped asking myself, is this normal? And started asking, why am I the only one uncomfortable? Then the questions got worse, quieter, more dangerous. Was I being loved? Or evaluated? If I had a child, would it be because I wanted one? Or because Carol needed one? Was I a wife? Or just the next step in their family narrative? Those questions didn't explode, they settled, stayed, waited, and then, 3 days before Christmas, everything changed. I was standing in the hallway, the one lined with their family photos, perfectly arranged, perfectly framed, perfectly controlled, and one of them was slightly out of place, just enough to notice. I almost ignored it. But something made me stop. I adjusted the frame, and that's when I saw it, a folded piece of paper, hidden behind the photo. At first, I thought it was nothing, a receipt, a note, something forgotten. But when I opened it, everything shifted. It was a bank transfer from one of Carol's private companies to a woman named Lisa Mercer. The data was after my wedding, and the memo line of 4 words, simple, cold, final, for the arrangement, confidential. I stood there, not moving, because in that moment, every memory I had started rearranging itself. The photos didn't look sentimental anymore. They looked staged. The house didn't feel warm anymore. It felt controlled. And for the first time, I understood something that would change everything. This wasn't just a family. It was a system. And I had just found the first crack in it. I didn't confront anyone that night. That's what they would have expected. Emotion. Shock. Questions. Instead, I stayed quiet, because something about that paper told me one thing very clearly. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. And systems don't fall apart from one question. They fall apart from proof. I called Emma. She didn't comfort me. She didn't tell me to calm down. She said one thing. Don't say anything yet. That's how I knew it was serious. Emma had known me long enough to understand the difference between hurt and danger, and whatever this was, it wasn't just emotional. It was structural. She came over that same night. Takeout in one hand, a notebook in the other. No panic, just focus. We spread everything out on the table. The transfer. The date, the name, Lisa Mercer. At first, it meant nothing, just a name, but Emma didn't treat it like nothing. She treated it like a thread. And once you pull the right thread, everything starts to unravel. By midnight, she had already found more. Archived records, old listings, fragments, nothing complete, but enough to build a direction. By morning, we had a timeline, and by noon, we had something worse. A photo, grainy, old, but clear enough. Jason, standing outside a courthouse, next to a woman, dark hair, holding a child, and in the background Carol, half-turned, watching, not surprised, not confused, present. That was the moment my chest tightened, because the posture told the truth before any document could. Jason wasn't standing like a stranger. He was standing like someone trying to look like one. And that difference, you don't fake it well. Not in real life. Emma placed the photo in front of me, then another document, a partial court record, sealed, redacted, but not completely. Names were still there: Carol Harvin, Lisa Mercer, a minor child. I felt my body go cold, not emotional, not panicked. Cold, because now, the question wasn't, what is this? The question was, how much of this is real? Are you telling me he has a child? I asked. Emma didn't rush to answer. That's what I respect about her. She doesn't fill silence with lies. I'm telling you, she said carefully. This isn't something you can ignore anymore. That was the moment everything started to rearrange. Every dinner, every comment, every joke, every time Carol pushed me about having a baby, every time she smiled while doing it, it all changed shape. This wasn't pressure. This was strategy. Not a family waiting for a child, a family trying to replace one. That realization didn't break me. It sharpened me. Because now, this wasn't about feelings. It was about truth. That night, I waited for Jason to come home. Watched him walk in like nothing had changed, like the world was still stable, like I didn't know. He kissed my cheek, asked if I was okay, called me quiet. Quiet. That word almost made me laugh, because men like him always call it quiet, when what they mean is, she's no longer playing her role. I didn't argue. Didn't accuse. I just waited. Until he went to shower. Then I opened his old laptop, the one he forgot about, the one still connected to everything he thought was buried. I searched one name, Lisa, and there it was. Emails, photos, records, and then an audio file, no label, just a date. Before me, I clicked it. Carol's voice came first, cold, sharp, controlled. You will end this now. I froze. Jason's voice followed, younger, tense. She's pregnant. Everything inside me stopped. Not exploded. Stopped. Because there are moments where truth doesn't feel loud. It feels final. Carol again. Why handle it quietly? There will be terms. The child will not carry this family name. And you will marry appropriately. Appropriately. That word echoed. Because suddenly I understood something I was never supposed to understand. I wasn't chosen. I was selected. Not for love. For function. A clean image. A reset. A replacement. I paused the recording. My hand shaking, then pressed play again. Because once you hear something like that, you don't get to pretend you didn't. Jason sounded unsure. Afraid. Carol sounded certain. Strategic. Experienced. Like this wasn't the first time. Like this was just another situation to manage. When it ended, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just sat there, very still. Because something inside me had already shifted. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a construction, and I was the final piece they added to make everything look clean. I copied everything, the file, the documents, the timeline, sent backups, multiple locations. Because if there's one thing I understood now, it's this: people like Carol don't lose control easily. So when they do, you make sure they can't take it back. When Jason came back downstairs, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just turned the screen toward him and pressed play. He froze, exactly 1 second. And that second told me everything. Panic. Recognition. Fear. Where did you get this? He asked. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Access. Control. Exposure. That was his instinct. You lied to me, I said. He started pacing. It's not what you think. That sentence. Always the same. Always meaningless. Then explain. I said he didn't. He deflected. Blamed. Minimized. Said I was overreacting. Said it was complicated. Said I was making it bigger than it was. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake he regretted. This was a truth he was still protecting. I asked him one question. Is the child yours? He hesitated. Too long. I don't know. That was enough. Not because I believed him. Because I didn't. But because I understood him. He always knew enough to benefit. Never enough to be responsible. And in that moment, the man I married disappeared completely. Not because he changed. Because I finally saw him clearly. So I stopped arguing. Stopped reacting. Stopped hoping. And started planning. Because if they thought they could control the story, they hadn't realized yet, I already had the ending. Christmas dinner was exactly how Carol wanted it. Perfect. Controlled. Beautiful enough to distract from anything real. The table was set like a magazine spread. Candles. Crystal. Polished silver. Everything glowing. Everything staged. And right at the center of it, her. Smiling. Waiting. I wore emerald. Because once, she told me only confident women could pull that color off. Tonight, I wanted her to watch me prove it. Jason met me at the door. Pale. Tense. Can we talk before dinner? He asked. No, I said. We'll do this in front of your audience. That was the moment he stepped aside. Like he always did. Dinner started quietly. Too quietly. Because everyone knew something was coming. They just didn't know what. Carol waited until the exact right moment. Halfway through. Fork down. Smile steady. "There's one final family matter," she said. And just like that, the room stopped breathing. The attorney stepped forward, placed the folder in front of me. Cream paper. Heavy, prepared, divorce papers. Already done. Already decided. All I had to do was sign. Carol folded her hands, elegant, calm. "Sign it," she said. "It's the best thing for everyone." Then she added, softer, "We'll keep this private." A private? That word almost made me smile. Because that was the whole game. Bury it. Control it. Rewrite it. I looked around the table. No one spoke. No one defended me. Not even my husband. Especially not my husband. So I picked up the pen, and I signed. Slow, careful, deliberate. And the moment I finished, I felt it. The shift. The relief. The room relaxed. Because they thought it was over. They thought I folded. They thought I accepted my place. They thought they won. That's when Emma stood up, walked to the head of the table, and placed a sealed envelope in front of Carol. No hesitation, no drama, just one sentence. "Since tonight is about honesty, you should open this too." Carol frowned, just slightly. The first crack, she opened it, and everything changed. Her fingers froze. Her expression slipped. Not completely, but enough, because inside that envelope, was everything. The transfer, the photo, the court record, the timeline, the truth. And before she could recover, I pressed play. Her own voice filled the room. Cold, sharp, unmistakable. "You will end this now." The room went silent. Not polite silence, real silence. The kind that makes people uncomfortable. The kind that forces attention. Jason stood up. "Turn that off." "No," I said. "You've had years of silence. Tonight belongs to the truth." The audio continued. Pregnant settlement. The child. The name. Every word landing heavier than the last. Someone whispered, "What child?" That was the moment everything broke. Carol stood, trying to regain control. "This is a private matter?" "No," I said. "This is the lie you buried inside my marriage." Jason tried to speak. I didn't let him. One look, and he stopped. Because for the first time, I wasn't asking. I was controlling the room. Carol's voice sharpened. "I was protecting the family." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You hid your grandson? You paid off his mother. And you tried to use me to replace him." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then she made the mistake. The one mistake people like her always make. She told the truth, without realizing it. "You were supposed to help us fix this." That was it. That was everything. "My body," I said slowly. "My marriage. My future child. That was your plan." And right then, the doors opened. Lisa walked in, calm, steady, done hiding. Jason looked like the ground disappeared beneath him. Carol gripped the table. Lisa looked straight at her and said the one thing that ended it. "Your grandson has a name. It's Noah." The room exploded. Whispers, shock, confusion, reality hitting all at once. I placed one final folder on the table. "Everything is backed up," I said. "If anything happens, it goes public." Jason looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Good. That was the point. Because the woman they thought they could control didn't exist anymore. I stood, looked directly at Carol, then at Jason, and said the only thing left. "You thought humiliation would make me obedient. All it did was make me precise." Then I walked out, while snow fell outside. And behind me, for the first time in years, the perfect Harvin family collapsed. The fallout didn't take weeks. It didn't even take days. It started the next morning. Because truth moves fast, when people have spent years trying to bury it. By sunrise, the silence around the Harvin name had already started to crack. Board members from Carol's foundation began stepping down, quietly at first, then publicly. Pending review. Temporary withdrawal. Carefully chosen words, but everyone understood what they meant. Something was wrong. And for the first time, they couldn't control the narrative. By the afternoon, Jason's firm suspended him. Not fired, not yet. But close enough. Because in worlds like his, reputation is everything. And once doubt enters the room, it never leaves. Calls stopped being returned. Invitations disappeared. People who used to smile suddenly didn't see them anymore. That's how power really works. It doesn't collapse loudly. It disappears quietly. Until there's nothing left. Jason called me. Over and over. When I finally answered, he sounded broken. "I never wanted this," he said. That sentence almost made me laugh. Because that had always been his problem. He never wanted anything badly enough to choose it. Not truth. Not me. Not even himself. "You didn't lose me because your mother is controlling," I told him. "You lost me because every time you had to be brave, you chose comfort." Silence. Then he cried. But it was too late for that. Regret after exposure isn't honesty, it's consequence. I hung up, and I didn't answer again. Carol's fall was different. Slower, colder, more complete. The financial records didn't stay private. They couldn't. Too many eyes. Too many questions. Too many people who suddenly had a reason to look closer. Accounts were reviewed. Transfers traced. Structures examined. And once that process starts, it doesn't stop halfway. She lost her position, her authority, her influence. The foundation she built removed her. The same people who once praised her elegance now avoided her completely. Because image only works until the truth becomes louder. And when it does, people don't defend you. They distance themselves. The final blow came from the one person she tried to erase. Noah. Once the court ordered testing, there was no more ambiguity. No more control. No more narrative. He was Jason's son. Legally. Publicly. Permanently. The child she tried to hide became the truth she couldn't escape. And with that, the everything she had spent years building was rewritten. Not by me, by reality. Jason lost everything he thought mattered. His career, his reputation, his image. And for the first time, he had to live without someone else cleaning it up. Lisa didn't take him back. There was no redemption waiting for him. Just consequences. And clarity. As for me, I didn't rebuild overnight. That's not how real endings work. There's no moment where everything suddenly feels right again. There's just space, quiet, breathing room. I filed my divorce, on my terms, no silence, no protection, no pretending, just truth, clear, documented, final. And for the first time since I walked into that family, I wasn't part of their story anymore. I was finally back in my own. People think power looks like control, money, influence, a name that opens doors. But real power is knowing the truth and deciding not to stay silent about it. For a long time, I thought strength meant enduring. Smiling when things felt wrong. Staying quiet to keep the peace. Being patient while someone else decided when I deserved respect. I thought that's what love looked like. I thought that's what marriage required. I was wrong. Because love doesn't ask you to disappear. Family doesn't ask you to become a solution to someone else's problem. And a marriage built on silence isn't a partnership. It's a performance. What happened to me wasn't just a toxic mother-in-law situation. It wasn't just a controlling family. It was something deeper, a system. One that survives by rewriting reality, by deciding who matters and who can be replaced. And for a while, I let myself believe I had to fit into it. Until I realized something that changed everything. You don't fix systems like that. You expose them. Walking away didn't make me weak. Speaking up didn't make me dramatic. Refusing to protect their lies didn't make me disloyal. It made me free. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. Freedom doesn't always feel good at first. Sometimes it feels like loss. Like silence. Like starting over. But it's honest. And honesty is something no one in that family could give me. So I gave it to myself. Now let me ask you something. If you found out your entire marriage was built on a lie, not just betrayal, but a system designed to use you, would you stay quiet? Would you walk away? Or would you do exactly what I did and make sure the truth is the last thing they ever get to control? Type lie yes if you would expose everything. Type O if you would leave quietly. And be honest, because the answer says more about your life Then you think, and if this story felt even a little familiar, stay. Because you're not the only one who's had to choose between peace and truth.